Okay, we are back after a little bit of a hiatus, and in fact, it is my second time recording this video because I somehow have a MP4 file with 30 minutes of me yapping my ass off with zero audio. I recorded this entire video about a week ago, and I just went to edit it, no audio, and I realized that the recording software I use glitched out and changed all of my audio inputs, so my mic just was never recording, which you may or may not care about that, but that's my excuse for this time around. But since we all last chatted, a lot has happened. The NHL season is over. The Carolina Hurricanes have toppled the forces of evil that are the Vegas Golden Knights to win the Stanley Cup. It was such a fun run to watch, such a fun playoffs to watch, but unfortunately we did see the Bruins get bounced in round one in 6 games by the Buffalo Sabres, who have been up to some shit in the last couple of days with trade deadline, or I guess with free agency coming up. I don't know why I said trade deadline, and the draft, which is later today. So I kind of want to get this out so I can make a separate maybe draft video diving into who the Bruins pick up over the next couple of days. Alas, I want to get back on the grind of making some of these videos to, one, fill the hole in my heart that is left by the NHL season being over, but also to kind of look forward into the next season. And I figured, what better place to start than by taking a look at our roster and making a tier list. And this is a bit of a funky tier list because it's not, the criteria is a little subjective, if you will. So we're ranking every player that was on the Bruins 2025-26 roster. And the factors are basically, one, based on their, contract, the team's needs moving forward and how they performed through the year. Do I think they are staying or leaving? But also from a personal level, do I enjoy watching this player? Do I think they're a good fit for the Bruins? Do I think they're going to do well on this team? And do I think they should stay on the team or not stay on the team? Obviously, they're not looking to me sitting in my living room going, nah, that guy's onto something. We should listen to him. Every video that comes before this one, I think, is further and further evidence that that should be absolutely not the case. But they can't stop me from making a tier list. So, looking at today's categories, I didn't want to just do like S tier through F tier because that's no fun. It's overplayed. So I took some creative liberties with the naming of these tiers. And at our top, we have I'm not fucking leaving. And this is basically the tier for players that I do not want to see leave this team. And also, like I mentioned, for some of those like contractual reasons and just overall morale of the city of Boston in general, these players aren't going anywhere. These are the franchise staples that we are going to continue to build around for the foreseeable future. So that'll be first tier. The tier below that is make yourself comfortable. These are guys that I think are doing a great job in Boston, really meshing well with the team, are going to be really impactful depth pieces in a playoff run, assuming, the Bruins kind of mimic their success of the past year and make it back to playoffs and hopefully make it a little deeper with some additions and some changes to the roster. But these are the players that I really enjoy watching play for the team. I hope they stick around and would love to see them back in the 2026-27 season. And then our middle tier is going to be, should I stay or should I go now? This one is kind of just, as it suggests, right in the middle. It's a kind of split between whether I think this player is going to walk, be traded, or otherwise, or stick around, maybe re-sign. There's a couple of players that are up, either restricted or unrestricted free agents, so we will see a lot of movement around that in the next week or so. But these are kind of just the middle of the road guys that for one reason or another, I'm kind of just on the fence about whether they should stick around for another year in Boston or whether it might be best if they get a change of scenery. But, this is kind of like a no hard feelings type of situation where it's like, either way, pretty happy if they stay, and if they go, like, darn, that's that. Below that, we have, let me check with my manager. And this is a classic line that I have used plenty of times to basically get out of telling somebody the horrible news that they should no longer be playing on this Boston Bruins team. And it's not so egregious that they need to just be booted off the team. Obviously, there's a million things at play that I can't just snap and make go away. Like, trade restrictions, how long people are locked up for, the money behind it, and what teams are willing to take on the money. There's a million reasons. So we're kind of living in the world of just like, we're turning all those sliders off for today. And we're just saying, like, if I could say, whatever happens, happens. This is one of those, either I wasn't in love with their performance over the past year. I don't know if they're the best fit for this team. Maybe they think like, oh, they had like a good season, maybe they'll stick around, and I just wasn't impressed with it for one reason or another, and I want them gone. But not gone as bad as the bottom tier, which is aptly named first flight out of here. It's going to be a pretty small group, but actually that's not true. Based on the time I did this before and the audio didn't work, it's actually a pretty large group. But this is the people that, like, I don't care what the money says, what the contracts say. The Bruins and you do not have a future in my eyes, and you gotta go. And frankly, if I have to fly to Boston and then drive them to the airport myself, I'm willing to take on that duty. So Bruins, hit me up if you need my services. I'm willing to take on this battle if need be to get these players out of Boston. So without further ado, it feels only right to jump in. So we have everybody line up at the bottom with one mystery dude. I spent like an hour doing this the other day and looking at it through editing. I've looked through the 2025-26 roster, the 24-25 roster. I, for the love of God, cannot figure out who this dude is. And I feel really bad. The best jokes I had from the last video were that he looks like a Patriots slot wide receiver, and he also kind of looks like one of my friend from elementary school's uncle. That's all I got. Please, in the comments, tell me I'm an idiot and tell me who this dude is. I can't figure it out. I've spent so much time looking at his face, and he's going to stay there. I'm not going to place him anywhere in the tier list because I do not know who that dude is. But everyone else I do. So let's get it kicked off with Victor Arvidsson. So Victor Arvidsson's an interesting case. And actually, I ended up changing the name of this middle tier. In the last video, it was named Right Place, Wrong Time. And that entire naming convention was basically made with Victor Arvidsson in mind, where he had a fantastic season, was a integral part of that second line that had a huge, probably the most consistent line across the board, had a huge season. And he is up as a, I believe, unrestricted free agent. And it's going to be an interesting case of what the money's looking like, because Victor Arvidsson, I think, is a great piece. I think fit really well in Boston. Obviously had one of his best years of his career. But I think you might fall into the trap of overpaying somebody based on 1 year of performance, and he had a great contract year. I mean, if you're a guy looking to lock down a contract, I think he's in his early 30s. Like, he did everything right in terms of making the right plays, having a great season before he's up for a contract. The thing is, the Bruins, in my mind, aren't exactly in win now mode. I think there's still some steps to take, and picking up a contract, and we have a number of them, that's going to hit a little bit harder than you need to for some of these guys, I think is dangerous. So for all those reasons, I would love to see him back, but again, I'm hoping the price tag is right. I'm going to put Victor Arvidsson in should I stay or should I go now. Obviously, if we can get him on a team-friendly deal, I would love to see him back, but also I'm not going to fault the guy for going and testing the waters in free agency and getting paid what he's absolutely worth. Even if it's not for the Bruins, I got no hard feelings on that one. Like, he absolutely deserves to get his bag if that's the case, or if the money comes through at a more reasonable angle, maybe a little bit below market value, to stay on this team where he clearly fits in and has good line mates on that second line. Be happy to see him stick around, but Victor Arvidsson's landing in should I stay or should I go now? Next up, we have Mikey Asamont, and I have nothing like crazy good, crazy bad to say. Anchoring kind of that third line, unfortunately falling into a bit of the pit of the Bruins have so many forwards, and I apologize for looking on the other direction, but I have all the stats pulled up on the other screen. And he had like an okay year, played in 56 games. So he was there a good chunk of the time, played all right, but I think again, suffers from just we have a million forwards, and he's one of them, and he didn't impress me the most. Again, we have a million centers for that matter. And I think Mikey Eyssimont is going to land in a let me check with my manager, where I don't think we instantly need to give him the boot. But at the same time, I think there are, of the 1 million centers we have on the roster and other forwards, I just don't think he's at the top of my list. And I think we might have to go to the manager and make them have that difficult conversation about Mikey Eyssimont. Again, I don't have the contract numbers pulled up off the top of my head. Like every other video, basically, I haven't done a whole bunch of research, and I figured as we move through the offseason, maybe the videos would get more and more researched as I look into what's actually reasonable. But I figured we'd start with the most outlandish, like let's just throw salary cap, contracts, everything out the window, and just kind of go on a couple of other metrics. And I think Mikey Eyssimont, again, I got nothing bad to say about him. I just think that in terms of our forward depth, he's not one of the key pieces I think we need to keep around as the Bruins look to move forward. And then next up, we have Morgan Geekie, where I don't know that there's a single other person out there that pushed harder to convince everyone who would listen that Morgan Geekie was going to have a 50-goal season this year. And yes, I hopped on that after he got out to an incredibly hot start. I was not saying this in preseason. I saw him score 5 to 10 goals off the rip early, and I said, this is it. This is his 50-goal season. And it looked really good, then really bad, then really good, then really bad again. And the streakiness is tough because you could watch this dude in the middle of like a 10-game goalless streak where he's not even shooting the puck anymore, or if he does, it's hitting some sort of iron. But I think Morgan Geekie still, for his production, is probably on one of the best contracts in the NHL. And I know I just said let's throw contracts out the window, but I think this guy is a make yourself comfortable. If we can keep him around on the deal he's on, I think it's like $5 or $6 million for 30 plus goals, I think, in the last 2 seasons. He's played fantastic, again, streaky at times, but I think if the Bruins can really nail down their line combinations, and if they can lock down that second and third line where you know Geekie's playing up on that first line, benefiting from playing with David Pastrnak, I think that this could be a huge chance for him to just continue that production. And again, the price is just so right with Morgan Geekie that I say make yourself comfortable. I loved what I saw, even if it was a little streaky throughout the year. Next up, we're moving over to Tanner Jeannot. And just right off rip, I'm going to go with another make yourself comfortable, partially because I know he is on a bit of a longer contract, but I think he brings an incredible physical presence to that fourth line. Loved what I saw out of him. It's like you get all the brute force of Nikita Zadorov, but with somebody who's better at their position, who's taking slightly less dumb penalties and really just cashing in on standing up for the guys, being the one to drop the gloves when you need to, whether it be to protect somebody, to stand up for somebody, or just to get the boys going on the bench when things are a little slow. The fourth line, I think, was a definition fourth line of what you need in the NHL. They're punishing, they play the tough minutes, they're not afraid to get their hands dirty, and I think Tanner Jeannot is a great part of that. Would love to see him stick around. And again, I think the situation's kind of there where he likely will stick around for a while in Boston. Next up, Pavel Zacha. Again, another 30-goal scorer since he joined the team quite a while. I don't even know how many years ago. Let me do a quick check of that. But pretty much since he's joined the Bruins, I have really been a fan of this guy. He's in he's age 29 now. So still in those prime years, and he came in the 2022-23 season. He's played it in the past 4 seasons. He's played 82 games in 2 of them, and 78 games last season. And then in 2023-24, played 78 games, put up 30 goals of the last 4 seasons. He actually had a career year. He just had career bests in goals, in points, and was just under his career best 38 assists, which he set in 23-24 with 35 this year. So a fantastic year. Again, just part of that second line that I don't know if they had just a miraculous year and that's going to regress to the mean a little bit. But I really have no bad things to say about Pavel Zacha. I have loved his play since he became a Bruin. And again, would love to see him stick around for the next couple years. I think as the Bruins push, he could be one of those more veteran players who's just consistently putting in the minutes and putting up points when we need them. So make yourself comfortable, Pavel Zacha. And joining him, actually, let's jump around a little bit because I think we have, looking ahead, a few more make yourself comfortables possibly. So let's do the quick, I'm not fucking leaving. It's pretty obvious. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised with who I put there. In anything you see online, these are the three guys that they need to be in Boston. They're staying in Boston. They are the franchise cornerstones. They hold, I believe, the three biggest contracts on our active payroll. And I don't want to see these guys go anywhere soon. I know when things were down bad, there was talks of like, are they going to trade Pastrnak? Do we try to dump Swayman? McAvoy was just broken down into a million different pieces this season and then reassembled. And it's a miracle he got to the finish line, and hopefully he's got a good dentist. But that guy has fought through just more than I think most people have to keep playing hockey. And it's been great to see. Also, speaking of C's, it gets my vote for captain. I think over the course of the year really cemented that for me. I would love to see him get the C. A couple other guys on the team could probably get it as well, but I think that he's my choice there. And again, I mean, Pasta didn't quite crack 30 goals, but just showed a huge evolution in his game and becoming an elite passer, having that vision, and really kind of needing to change a bunch of his play style to accommodate for the lack of Bruins weapons up front. And he did a fantastic job with that. So those guys aren't going anywhere for a long, long time. Now that we've done our little bit of a detour, let's jump back to the make yourself comfortables. I'm going to throw Marat Husnudinov and Sean Corrali both up there for different reasons. Marat Husnudinov, one of the younger guns, anchoring those kind of the kid and cub lines as they're referred to. I think the kid line is Minton, Husnudinov, and Pastrnak, and then the cub line is the same, but switching Pasta for James Higgins, who we'll get to a little bit later. But I think just it's exciting seeing the Bruins have decent young talent, because for a lot of my years as a Bruins fan, they haven't had that. So having young talent that you can look forward to growing and becoming better year over year, I think is fantastic. I liked what I saw. Again, he wasn't so flashy where you're like, this guy's got next up. He's going to be the next superstar in this league. But recorded a 4-goal game. Mind you, it was during a 10-2 blowout of the Rangers. But he showed he can score. He can put up consistent minutes on that third line. I think he's got room to grow, and I'm just excited to kind of see where all those younger pieces of the Bruins follow up this year. I think it was the first time in a long time where the Bruins haven't been so desperately in win now mode where they're willing to put in the younger pieces, let them make mistakes, let them learn. So I was very excited to see him play. Hope he sticks around. And again, having those younger pieces that develop and become really key parts of the roster, I think are huge for a team that's where the Bruins are, where they're not in tank mode, and they're obviously trying to be competitive. And I think they're not quite in win now mode where it's worth selling the future to win right now. So I think he's a great piece. And then Sean Corrali, basically just take everything I said for Tanner Jeannot and then say it again. Again, puts up the minutes. That fourth line, there were a lot of times where you could feel the Bruins team slipping a little bit in games, and the fourth line would go out there and just have an incredible shift. All offensive zone time, wear the defense down. And he's a key part of that. Again, second stint here as a Bruin, and I think has done a great job. Would love to see him stick around as well. So he is chilling in the make yourself comfortable category as well. Okay, now we're getting into the interesting things. So Elias Lindholm. I actually don't know where I put him in my last ranking. It's between two. I think Elias Lindholm is a let me check with my manager. Unfortunately, for cap reasons, I don't think he's moving anytime soon. That's just a contract we're going to have to eat for a while. And he did actually have a statistically okay year. Certainly, there was some stat padding going on at the end of it all. He played okay. 31 assists, 17 goals. Again, a lot of that, I think a lot of his goals, he had like 3 or 4 in the last couple of the season because all I did was complain about how he could never score, and then he scored a bunch. but the math just doesn't track on Elias Lindholm in terms of what he was paid to do, what he came in to do, and what he actually does. I think the Bruins needed that top line center, and he just does not provide the top line center position like we need him to. Unfortunately, I think we're kind of stuck with it, and we're paying a guy that we came in, with expectations of being a first liner to, play third line minutes and play down on that third line with kind of the younger guys. And it's all right, but I think if we could say see you later, that would be for the better. I think just, again, the Bruins have so many forwards, and I just don't think Elias Lindholm has worked out the way he was intended to with Boston. Again, I think he's going to stick around because we're kind of doomed with his contract, but I'm not the biggest fan. That's going to be a let me check with my manager. And it would be wrong to make him the first in this category because, again, was made with a very specific player in mind. I volunteer my services to drive the man to the airport. Again, digital footprint means I probably don't survive the ride between picking him up and dropping him off at Boston Logan, but I don't think I need to say much to express why I'm putting him there. If you've seen any of my past videos, you certainly know. But to boil it all down, I think that the Bruins really missed Zdeno Chara, and they saw a tall guy on defense and said, he must be exactly like Zdeno Chara. And it's just a tall guy who doesn't know how to use his stick to poke the puck. He's better at using it to trip people and take... It's just like the combination of penalty trouble with like third line defense. Like, it's not like the penalty trouble is outweighed by amazing defensive performance. It doesn't track. Again, because of the money, I think we're just stuck with them. That sucks. Really sucks for me. Because I talk a lot about how he's one of my least favorite players on the roster. And I will say, caveat it a little bit with the grit this guy has shown and the toughness of, again, being willing to stand up for his teammates, fight anybody. A lot of situations where players got hit and Zadorov's the first guy to go deal with it. And also played through just a complete tear of ligaments in his knee through the playoffs. And like, this is a Bruins team that anybody could have looked at the roster and said, like, they're not winning the cup. I knew it. I think everybody else knew it. I was excited for the playoffs. It's good to be back in the playoffs. I was hoping like a second round exit would be kind of the vibe because I hated watching Buffalo. But I think that's kind of the definition of heart when it comes to being willing to put yourself through so much for your team to win a cup. They talk about how much it takes to win a cup, and it's stories like that that show you that was for the first round of the playoffs. That was for 6 games. Frankly, I think his injury was in game 2 or 3. So a couple games, but like that you can't take away. It's just that does not make up for, in my mind, and account for the product on the ice when he's healthy. So sorry, Nikita Zadorov. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. In this hypothetical universe, I'm telling you to pack your bags, and we'll see you in another time. I had to get all that out of the way so I could also put Hampus Lindholm down here. I was high up on Hampus Lindholm to this day. Every time I watch a replay of that, 23-24 Bruins run, I still can't believe his shot goes in game 7 in the first round against the Leafs. To this day, I watch it and I think it's going to go post out or something. And I thought, great, we're getting, an offensive defenseman. We were coming off of years with Zdeno Chara back there, who's he's not jumping up in the play all the time. And it's clearly kind of a requisite in this league that you need to have a bit more athleticism on your defense, I think, outside of Charlie McAvoy, who's kind of leading the charge in that front. I was really excited about Hampus Lindholm. And as the years have gone on, and specifically this year, the more I looked at it, maybe more under a microscope, I just was shaking my head, screaming at my TV, screaming at my monitor, like, what are you doing? Why are you jumping up at the play? Just sending a slap shot directly into somebody's skates and having it bounce the other way and getting put in, a 2-on-1 or just a breakaway situation where, thank God, we have Jeremy Swayman making a lot of those look less bad than they were. But I just, I was at my wit's end with Hampus Lindholm at the end of the season, and it might be time to say sayonara in my book. Moving to a bit more of a positive light, Fraser Minton, make yourself comfortable, buddy. Again, a trade that we haven't even seen like the full value of because the Leafs are apparently in Gary Bettman's pockets, or maybe the other way around, where, oh God, the Leafs are bad again for one season. Let's give them the first pick. The look of despair on my face when I saw that last ball get pulled out of their random gambling machine to show that the Leafs had won the first overall pick. Absolute despair. I think we still get their next pick the next year because we're still owed that first rounder. Likely will not be as good as it would have been this year, but the fact that we got Fraser Minton and a pick is crazy for Brandon Carlo. I loved what I saw. Again, kind of all the same things about Murat Hustadinov. I just want to see him play more, want to see him get more experience and keep going at that center position. I loved what I saw, and I'm happy he's on the team and super young still too. I mean, he's like 21 maybe, and yeah, he's 21. And just, I was so impressed with his play. 17 goals, 35 points, plus 21 for the plus minus is crazy. So stick around, Fraser Minton. Alex Steeves is an interesting case. And I think I had him in Let Me Check with My Manager for the same reasons as Mikey Eismont. I think Alex Steeves, again, like jumped onto the scene, filled the role really well of being a third liner when we needed him to. Had a couple injuries and he jumped up and he started out really hot and then his scoring kind of tapered off. Unfortunate. He's, a great scorer. He's put up huge numbers in the AHL and is, I think, one of those just fringe roster guys where there's a lot of other teams where I think he makes a team and he's putting up solid third, fourth line minutes. The Bruins just have so many forwards and I'm not sure that he fully fits into the picture. I feel terrible saying that because I think he did have a decent breakout year and kind of his first year getting to play in the NHL, but that's landing in a Let Me Check with My Manager. I think at the end, there are just other players I'd rather have around more than him. Also, we have some of the younger guys filling a similar role who just simply put are younger, and I think are kind of a better look at the Bruins' future. James Hagens almost feels like we didn't see enough of him to really say anything. I'm just going to put him in Make Yourself Comfortable because it feels wrong to say, should I stay or should I go? But I think that we just need to see more of him. I wasn't amazed with what I saw in the couple of games, but I think the sample size was just so small that I can't really say much. The spotlight looked a little bright, just throwing him right into playoffs, and I think more time is needed just in regular NHL games to get him up to speed. But excited to have him. And again, Bruins actually having young talent is very exciting. Casey Middlestat. We're having to pack the bench at that Make Yourself Comfortable level. I think that, again, just anchored the second line super, super well. Probably the guy we talked about the least on that second line, but a huge part of it, and I think had a sneaky good season as a result of that. I've been just long-winded rambling about a lot of players on here, so I'm going to keep it kind of short and sweet, but I say Make Yourself Comfortable. I'm happy to see him around, and again, I think we got good value out of him for, again, I believe the contract he's on, and just excited to see if that second line can kind of repeat their success. Lucas Reichel, I think is a should I stay or should I go? We brought him in mid-season to bring some speed, and I think the Bruins do desperately need some speed when it comes to just breaking up and fixing their issues with zone entries. But again, Bruins have a million forwards. Not sure how he fully fits into the picture, but I really like the speed to his game. I'd like to see more of him before I make a super definitive judgment. But for right now, I'm saying, should I stay or should I go? Mark Kastelik. Again, definition fourth liner. Those guys are gritty. Willing to go out there and use the body. And again, not afraid to drop the gloves. And I think one of the big arguments is like, oh, who's going to be the enforcers out there if Zadorov's gone? It's Janelle and Kaslik. Those guys are not afraid of anything, and they are willing to mix it up and stir the pot at any moment. So stick around. Jordan Harris, we just didn't see a lot of. I think originally I might have had him in Let Me Check With My Manager, but I'm going to put him in Should I Stay or Should I Go? I think, again, another person who's potentially just suffering from being on a decent team where they're not willing to risk as much putting in the younger talent. And I feel a little bad because I think he was also dealing with some injuries and trying to fight to come back and just didn't get to see a ton of game time this year. Again, I'd like to see more. And given how I feel about a lot of our defense, I'm hoping maybe one more year of seeing if it's going to work with the Bruins or if it's best to go somewhere else. Again, I don't think that decision always entirely lies with the players. In fact, it probably lies with the players less than it should. But I think I'm kind of middle of the road on Jordan Harris. I need to see more. Henry Jokiharju, let me check with the manager on that one. Again, I could also put him in kind of the should I stay or should I go? I think he's the most fringe of the guys that I have in this category of could get bumped up. But I was very angry at our defense, and maybe this is a bit of lashing out to kind of tackle that. But there are just a lot of pieces where I wasn't super thrilled, basically outside of McAvoy, and because we're talking about Aspero. I saw a good video the other day that kind of called out Aspero a little bit and saying, like, this guy isn't a defensive wizard. He just played with Charlie McAvoy, and the rest of the Bruins defense was so bad that he looks really good. So I thought Aspero was great. I think the deal we have him on is great. I loved what I saw, but I did think about that video a little bit more and say, maybe I am just overreacting a little bit because the rest of our defense was so abysmal. But I do want Jonathan Aspero to stick around for the foreseeable future. I loved what I saw. I think it was a great pairing. Again, I think if we bring in some defensive talent, maybe he drops down to like a second line and anchors that. But I thought he did a great job. And everybody, yeah, you can pack your bags, Mason Lohrei. I was a Mason Lohrei defender for a couple years. I thought, again, I saw the sparks of a potential offensive defenseman. I really liked what I was seeing. He was getting up in the plays. He was shooting the puck all the time. I think it was the playoff run maybe 2 or 3 years ago where he was just jumping up in the play all the time, getting really good looks. And I kept saying to people, like, he's going to score. He's going to put up points this series. Just watch. Like, he was in the right place, making the right plays. And, you know, finally a couple went for him. But the last couple of years, I feel like I've seen almost a little bit of a regression. And he lands in the Hampus Lindholm category to me of just gets up in the play and makes the right reads to do that, but then takes the worst shot in the world that bounces off somebody, goes back the other way, and completely gets burned back on the other side of the ice. Andrew Peeke, you just need to go. That's just, you got to pack your bags, buddy. That's all I got. The third line was abysmal for our defense. I feel like just got caught out there all the time in bad spots and really hurt the Bruins. So you guys can actually sit together on the plane as we ship y'all out. I realize we just have the entire bottom four of the defense, but it was bad. It was bad, dude. They gotta go. Joonas Korpisalo, I have gone up and down a lot on Joonas Korpisalo, but I think it's a let me check with my manager situation. He showed flashes, but there were other games where he just looked bad. And I think Swayman is so good that we kind of just need a dude to stand in the net the other nights that Swayman can't play, that Swayman's resting. And I don't think Joonas Korpisalo showed me enough to be like, that's the 1-2 punch. And again, we are so privileged that we got to watch Linus Ullmark and Swayman play together. Like that is going to be hard to replicate, if at all. Arguably one of the best goalie tandems in a very long time. But I don't think, I just didn't love enough of what I saw to Joonas Korpisalo to really say like, this guy should stick around. Again, will he? Probably. But that's how I feel. And then the mystery dude is left. Again, I, for the love of God, cannot tell you who that dude is. He looks familiar, but I can't place it. So that's the tier list with audio this time. Let me know in the comments how much of an idiot I am and how wrong I got a lot of this, but I would love to hear people's thoughts. Again, this is not supposed to be realistic. This is based just on mostly vibes and what the eye test for a lot of it for me. And then a little bit factors of like, okay, are they tied up in a contract, that type of stuff. But mostly just the eye test, what I felt as a fan of the team. Let me know what you think. The draft is on later tonight, so I'm hopefully going to follow this up with some sort of video about the Bruins incoming draft picks. If anything crazy happens, we also have free agency starting in a week, so that's going to be insane. So we'll see what the Bruins do. I don't know, but that's all I got for now. We'll catch y'all in the next one.